What's up, world? Hey, check this out. We just had a snowstorm. Arctic blast came through. I went outside and measured the snow. We got 7 inches, but I'm up here to my ankles. But let me get to the reason why I'm putting this video together. It's to share some of the information that I had got from this book. Let me make sure you can see it. That I read called The Gospel of HipHop. And if you saw my video change, this is one of the books that I was reading in it. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of, some of the letters are kind of smudged off of it. But basically, this is a book that I definitely recommend for people to read. Whether you like, learning about the hip-hop culture, learning about self-help, or if you just like reading in general, this is definitely a good read that I definitely recommend. It's put together real uniquely, but one thing though that I thought was really interesting is it's called The First Instrument. And when we think of music, we usually think of an instrument. We think about something that's used to be able to create music and create sound. Where in this book, he calls the first instrument our body. Our body is the very first instrument that we're given in this world. And what's interesting is, one of the points that I thought was pretty interesting that's about this book is, and it's not just in this book, it's in a lot of self-help lectures and things like that. Like, one, for example, is like Bob Proctor and Born Rich. For people who don't know who Bob Proctor is, he was one of the characters in the Secret Project with Oprah Winfrey. And basically, in this book and in a lot of different lectures, they address the idea of us being spiritual beings with physical bodies and not the other way around. And that's the way I used to look at it, is the interpretation of my reality as being a physical being with a spirit. But basically, in this book and other lectures, KRS One, he's the author of the book. And, one of the things that he talks about is our true essence, our true being is unseen. It's a spiritual being that exists, in a realm, how can I say this? In a realm that's outside, that's beyond our human perception. And we have our physical body as an instrument in order to be able to interact, to be able to act and perform the things that is meant for us to do here on earth. One of the things that he calls is the divine performance, which I think is pretty interesting, where basically, our ancestors that are in the realm with God, in the God kingdom, they're already on a higher level than us, and looking at us as we perform. And it's kind of like a movie, really. We call it the divine performance, which is something that I think is pretty interesting. Now, getting back to our physical bodies being our instrument, us being spiritual beings with a physical body as an instrument in this world, I think it's pretty interesting. Once you start to get into like learning about purpose of why we're here, being able to manifest the things, the goals that we're looking for, the type of life that we're trying to accomplish, or the type of life that we're trying to manifest. One of the things that he says in his book, he calls it the Hlog, which stands for health, love, awareness, and wealth. And these are things that he says that the attuned hip-hopper, they call it the attuned hip-hopper, these are things that we search for in our life to be able to manifest happiness, basically, to be able to manifest that bliss of living a good life. So that's something that I think is pretty interesting about this book. Again, it's a good read for anybody who is into learning about the culture. It is uniquely put together. It's a lot of stuff that's in here, man. I don't want to say too much about it, but I definitely wanted to share this book because it is definitely life-changing for me. And I think that people who are on the spiritual path will definitely appreciate it. Whether you are into the culture of hip-hop or not, it's a lot of deep points that's dropped on here, that's dropped in this book. And, going along on the path of spirituality and ascension, I think that's the concept of being a spiritual being with the physical body kind of helped shift my paradigm. It made me look at things differently because, as a teenager, one of the things that the KRS One calls in this book, he calls it prison. And I feel like that was something that I had to go through, and that a lot of people who can fall victim to the wrong influences in this world can fall victim to it, and he calls it prison. I think it stands for personal resentment and negative, personal resentment in situations of negativity. It's something like that. But basically, as a teenager, I put myself into some situations where I built up a lot of bad karma that I had to pay for, and on the spiritual path, we learn about universal principles that govern our world. And it's some of the things that he talks about in here in this book too. But basically, being able to build up enough righteous karma, basically, in order to be able to correct our spiritual world, in order to move up out of that prison type situation. Whether it's the actual manifestation or mental or spiritual prison. So that's something that I definitely think is an awesome point that is definitely well needed, especially in the world of hip hop, to know about how to be able to evaluate the messages and how you allow it to influence your life. Because as a teenager, I took a lot of stuff literally in hip hop music, rap in general, mainstream rap, and it ended up causing some catastrophe. And being able to recognize how to be able to evaluate these songs, because I still love hip hop, I love mainstream rap, but I don't listen to it the same way anymore. I listen to it in a way of how is this affecting me. What kind of message am I getting from this? Especially now, looking at it as, all of us being spiritual beings with a physical body, even the artists that I listen to, being a spiritual being, sometimes there are messages that are delivered unconsciously from the artist that other people may pick up. And I think that's something that's real interesting. That even happened with me with some of the music that I've done in the past. And now that I listen to it now, even though I don't agree with the conscious intent of the music, subconsciously being able to listen to it and decipher and decode different messages coming from deep within my soul that I didn't even know was there at that time. So, again, dealing with being a spiritual being with a physical body, I think it's just interesting of becoming more aware of our spiritual presence and who we are in the world of the unseen before things begin to manifest in the physical world. So that's something that I just wanted to share real quick. Anybody who's interested in learning about the culture, or just reading self-help books, or just reading in general, this is definitely a book that I recommend. The Gospel of Hip Hop, First Instrument. You can see, I've been reading. I had it for a while, but I finished reading it not too long ago. This is one of the books I was reading in my video, Change, and this definitely was life-changing. So that's all I wanted to do, is just share that information, come out here in the snow for a little bit. Other than that, though, that's all I wanted to do, is just share that information. So hopefully you guys got something out of it, and you go check this book out, because it's definitely something that's worthwhile. It's definitely worth your time. So with that being said, until next time, y'all, peace, stay blessed.